Hello, I'm JT and welcome to my man cave on Focus Media SA. Please do not forget to subscribe, like, share the video if you find it interesting as I take you through how I made this prop. Now, it's very important for me to state from the outset that I chose plywood. This is my go-to material for projects such as this one. So I already had a number of boards that I had used in another project, which I then dismantled and reclaimed this wood material. So with that being said, all that was left was for me to rip these boards to size and make sure that I have all the sides that I need. One thing that I had to make sure was to make sure that I have all the pieces together first, knowing that every single piece that is going to go into the building of the prop is taken care of. And the next and very important step to make sure that the wood that I'm using does not have any splinters, I had to make sure that I send off unsightly pieces. And the best way to do that, I just used this sandpaper, which is, as you can see, it's one of the old pieces that I had. All that I had to do was to reclaim. And here, in a lot of projects that I will be doing, you'll actually learn that a lot of materials that I use will be reclaimed because, hey, as I said, in woodwork, you don't throw away stuff, especially stuff that can still be used. And that is why I used this. And all that I had to make sure that I had is to have this bar that would enable me to send away all of those beads that I needed to send away. And next up, it was just to take proper measurements and make sure that I cut even shorter the material that had to be cut shorter. And that's where my miter saw came in very nice and handy. And with all the pieces now sanded off and further cut and processed to size, it was time for me to do what I call a mock assembly. Take measurements and make sure that I know where the pieces are going to be connecting and make sure that I have my pieces squared off, because for this one I'm not going to use a single screw. What I'm going to be doing rather is to use the dowels, because I find the dowels working very perfectly. As you can see there, it's very important that I should mark exactly where each piece is supposed to go. And the next thing that I needed to do was to make sure that the A corresponds with the A from the marking and the B corresponds with the B from the marking. And this right here is my doweling jig. Just made sure that I had a little bit of a flag there to just help me not over drill, but to drill to a particular size, because I'm using a particular size of dowels. So having done that and make sure that everything is arranged and marked properly, I had to see if this would look like a door or doors when I'm done. And with that out of the way, I needed to be sure that I have a space for those thinner pieces that are going to go in the center to give us that window feel. And now, for the moment of truth, a little bit of cold glue, the wood glue, and a little bit of glue squidding into the dowel holes. It's very important that you must have enough coverage of glue on the wood surfaces where there's going to be connection. You don't need a lot. And for me, it was enough for me to know that it will be good to go and deal with those short clients that SisZam always works with without any worries whatsoever. I know this is a long and a tedious process, but it was very important that I do it in this way so that you can know every single thing that I have to do has to be done 100% by hand, and it has to be done one by one. That's just how much work it is to put together a woodwork project such as this one. But throughout the process, I enjoyed it very much. My clamps always come in handy when this kind of a thing happens. Those are my 460mm clamps, and all I had to do was to leave them out to dry for a bit. It doesn't need a lot of time for it to dry. So while I take care of something else, it was getting dry. And when I came back, all I had to do was to make sure that I shave off the inconsistencies, because it has to be absolutely symmetrical. So it's very important that the ends on both sides correspond. That way it will be an awesome thing. And as you can see right there, the plan is already coming together nicely. Next up, it was time for me to go once again, send off the face of the project and make sure that it's all nice and tidy. That way I can be in a position to see the kind of character that it's going to have. And when I was done with my hand sanding, I needed to apply a little more sandpaper. And this is how it came out. Next up, it was time for me to close off the openings of the door. So to make life easy for myself, all I had to do was just to stencil out the pieces that I needed cut, so I don't have to worry about the numbers. Just stenciling out was all that I needed. One last dry fit before I commit them. By the look of things, it seems like it's all systems go. Now, to make sure that my doors will always shut and stay in a shut position all by themselves, I had to bring this little thingamajigs khudengekis that will be magnets that will hold the doors in place. And with my punch and hammer, I marked the places where I would drill in the pieces. Now the second part is to make sure that everything is aligned so that when the door comes back, it comes back to your place. Making sure that the door can stand by itself, it is important that I use the squares to make sure that everything is at a perfect 90-degree angle so that there are no wobbles. And there we go. Now at this time, I know Peanut was going to have fun helping me to paint the door. This is where the pleasure of sanding comes in, because then it allows us to apply our 2 coats of primer without any problems of splinters and uneven spaces. And for this one, we are going for a very bright yellow. It's kids, so yellow seemed to be a perfect choice, and I think it worked wonders. Now, it's important with this kind of paint to make sure that when you stir, you don't create bubbles. You just make sure that there's a perfect consistency without being so hard and creating bubbles, because we do not want bubbles. All that we want is perfect consistency. You start with those hidden corners and make sure that they are taken care of before we do the rolling. And as it would be expected, Tato was up to having more fun than I was. And when the rolling has happened, it was all systems go. What do you think? Have I come close to your expectations?
Wow.
It was after 2 coats of paint that this came out the way it is.
Wow.
I actually like it. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and make sure that you leave a comment. See you on the next one.